I say to the honourable gentleman, give me the seat. I will not tolerate such behaviour. If you want to go out now, but if you stand again, I will order you out. Make your mind up. Either shut up and get out.
Neil Hanvey and Kenny...
I order... Shut up. Shh. Neil Hanvey, I am now naming you and Kenny McCaskill to leave this chamber. Sergeant, deal with them. Deal with them. Deal with them. Just sit down. Out! No, Sergeant at Arms, escort them out. Take them out, Sergeant. Get them out.
In a historic upheaval that has shattered the foundations of British politics, Nigel Farage has seized a mantle of power, declared the next Prime Minister in a moment that left Westminster reeling. The House of Commons, typically a stage for predictable debates and rehearsed rhetoric, became the epicenter of a political earthquake. Keir Starmer, once Labour's unshakable leader, sat paralyzed, his authority crumbling before a nation watching in stunned silence. Farage's rise is not just a shift in leadership. It is a brutal dismantling of a system that has long ignored the pulse of the people. The air in Westminster crackles with tension. The media is in a frenzy, and the public, long disillusioned, is electrified by a moment that has rewritten the rules of power. Farage entered the chamber with a presence that demanded submission. No grand gestures, no theatrics, just a steely resolve that silenced the usual parliamentary clamor. MPs, accustomed to their scripted sparring, sensed the shift immediately when he rose to speak. His words were a blade, cutting through decades of political complacency. He didn't bother with pleasantries or deference to tradition. Instead, he unleashed a torrent of truth, exposing Labour's failures with surgical precision. Starmer, he declared, was no leader but a hollow figurehead, propped up by a party that had abandoned its roots for elitist ideals. Broken promises, economic mismanagement, and a betrayal of the working class. Farage's accusations were relentless, each one landing like a sledgehammer. The chamber, usually alive with interruptions, fell silent, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Starmer's response was a disaster. His usual calm deserted him, his words stumbling, weak, and unconvincing. The man who had built his career on measured control was visibly unraveling, his face pale, his hands trembling. Farage didn't relent. He turned his fire on Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, tearing into her record with devastating clarity. "You're drowning," he said, "and the British people are paying for it." Reeves sat frozen, her credibility shredded in real time. Labour's front bench, once a symbol of unity, descended into chaos, MPs exchanging panicked glances, unable to counter the onslaught. Farage's words weren't just an attack. They were an execution of Labour's legitimacy, a public autopsy of a government that had lost its way. The Conservatives, expecting to escape unscathed, were next. Farage's gaze shifted, and with it, the Tories' facade of competence collapsed. "You've let this country rot," he spat, his voice dripping with contempt for their empty promises and failed leadership. The laughter that followed wasn't celebratory. It was sharp, nervous, a reflection of the fear gripping MPs who realized their invincibility was an illusion. Farage wasn't just speaking to the chamber. He was channeling the anger of millions, working-class families, forgotten towns, and betrayed voters who had been dismissed by a political class too comfortable in its own power. The Tories, like Labour, were exposed as relics of a dying order, their authority evaporating under Farage's unrelenting scrutiny. Then came the moment that would define British politics for generations. The Speaker, bound by centuries of neutrality, stood and delivered the unthinkable. Nigel Farage was, in essence, the next Prime Minister. The chamber erupted, shock, outrage, and all colliding in cacophony that drowned out all reason. Starmer sat motionless, the weight of his defeat etched into every line of his face. His aides, scrambling to salvage the unsalvageable, were reduced to whispering platitudes that no one believed. Farage, by contrast, stood unmoved, his calm authority a stark contrast to the chaos around him. He didn't need to gloat. The silence that followed his speech was victory enough, a weapon that amplified the devastation he had unleashed. Outside the Commons, the nation was transfixed. Social media exploded with clips of Farage's evisceration of Starmer, hashtags trending within minutes as citizens shared their shock, anger, and, for many, exhilaration. Coffee shops, pubs, and workplaces buzzed with debate. The public glued to screens replaying the moment Labor's leader was broken and Farage ascended. This wasn't just a political event. It was a cultural reckoning, a moment when the voiceless found a voice. Farage had tapped into a deep well of frustration, giving it form and fury, and the people responded with a fervor unseen in decades. From red wall constituencies to coastal towns, communities long ignored felt seen, their grievances laid bare on a national stage. Inside Westminster, the fallout was immediate and brutal. Labour MPs, once loyal to Starmer, whispered of leadership challenges, their confidence shattered. The party's carefully crafted image of unity and competence lay in tatters, its members unable to meet each other's eyes. The Conservatives, too, were in disarray, their opportunism replaced by fear as they realized Farage's wrath could turn on them next. The old certainties, protocol, tradition, the assumption of untouchability had been obliterated. Parliament, once a fortress of power, felt small, its grandeur diminished by the raw force of Farage's conviction. The media, caught off guard, scrambled to keep pace. Headlines screamed of Starmer's collapse and Farage's triumph, while pundits struggled to analyze a moment that defied conventional wisdom. International outlets picked up the story, framing it as a seismic shift in British politics, a warning to global elites that the old rules no longer applied. Diplomats and world leaders watched with unease, grappling with the implications of a UK led by a man who had upended centuries of tradition in a single afternoon. Farage's rise wasn't just a British story. It was a global signal that the era of complacency was over. As night fell, Westminster remained in chaos. Starmer, retreating to number 10, was a shadow of the leader he once was. Reports described him staring blankly at papers, his aides unable to pierce the fog of defeat that enveloped him. Labour's hierarchy faced an existential crisis, its members debating resignation and damage control in hushed, desperate tones. The Conservatives, meanwhile, were paralyzed, their usual bravado replaced by a dawning realization that they, too, were vulnerable. Farage had exposed not just individual failures, but the fragility of an entire political class, one that had relied on inertia for too long. For the public, the moment was transformative. Ordinary citizens, from factory workers to small business owners, felt a surge of connection to a leader who spoke their language. Farage hadn't just attacked policies. He had articulated a national sentiment, a rage against a system that had failed them. His words resonated in every corner of the UK, reigniting a political engagement that had long been dormant. People who had stopped voting, stopped caring, were suddenly awake, their voices amplified by a man who refused to be silenced. Farage's triumph was no accident. Every word, every pause, every glance was calculated to dismantle the old order and assert his dominance. He didn't need backroom deals or political games. His weapon was truth, delivered with a precision that left no room for rebuttal. The silence he commanded was more powerful than any speech, a testament to the authority he now wielded. Parliament, the media, and the public all understood this was not a moment of transition, but of revolution. The question now is what comes next. Starmer's collapse has left Labour leaderless. The Conservatives are exposed, and Farage stands unchallenged, his reform UK a force that has shattered the status quo. The UK is at a crossroads, its future uncertain but undeniably altered. The old Britain, its assumptions, its hierarchies, its complacency is gone. In its place is a new reality, one shaped by a man who dared to speak the truth and, in doing so, changed the course of history. The nation watches, waits, and wonders. What will Farage do with his power, and what does it mean for a country reborn in the ashes of its past?